Welcome to this week in the world of wrestling.
Welcome to TWitWoW, the best wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans, on the web today. I'm John, that's my cohort and commentary Ashton, and this is our Lucha Underground review. And yet another stellar episode from inside the temple. I freaking loved Lucha Underground tonight. We got some great matches, some mind-blowing storyline progression, some very curious debuts. To me, this show packed a wallop of a punch. I enjoyed it. Ashton, what'd you think of it, man?
This was the ultimate example. It was like the tale of two episodes, because the first half I wasn't super into. I appreciated the matches, but there really wasn't anything overly exciting. The second half of this show with the main event match and the post-credit scene blew me away. Amazing.
Yeah, and see, that's the thing, though, because even you were like, with the first half, it was alright, but I mean, compared to a Raw where sometimes we'll say that what we saw was outright terrible, Lucha Underground's still in the green, baby, because even when they're meh, they're still so much better than anything else out there. It's unbelievable. And yeah, I just love this episode tonight. I can't say it enough, so let's get right into our first segment. Heat of the night, and nobody's dragging me out of the Arctic, man. I haven't seen a flare signal or anything. I'm still enjoying this property. Still no heats of the night, baby. Third straight week. I
was going to be worried about you being stranded there, but then you said that you were enjoying it, so I'm not worried.
I got satellite now, bitch. I'm good, man. I got all my hookups.
Dude, I live in the U.S. and I don't even have satellite. I'm so jealous.
I know, right? Well, I know a guy, so. But regardless, I mean, let me ask you, though.
Hook me up, man.
I will. I'll give you the number out of the bag. But, I mean, given how you feel about the first half, again, you didn't say it was atrocious or anything, but I am curious. Do you have any nitpicks or any heats of the night that you want to air out?
No. First of all, I just looking over the card again, I don't think I have any heats of the night, no. But what I did want to say is I would give the first half of the show like a 6.5, 7 out of 10. And I would give the second half of the show like a 10 or like an 11. It was so good.
Yeah. So it all kind of balances out in the end. No, I mean, dude, the second half I will say this. I was high energy the whole time, and you know why that was, and I think our viewers know as well from our Brian commentary. I was having, like, internet issues, so I was really able to enjoy the show tonight in, like, maximum quality, which felt wonderful. But I think even if I was to look at this objectively, I do think they started out fine, but they really finished strong tonight. It's going to be some very interesting discussions that you are going to have. So with that said, let us get right into our Lucha Underground review. And Ashton, how do we open this baby up?
With a match, actually. We open this baby up with Bengala, or as Melissa Santos announces his name, the Mighty Bengala. And his opponent, as we know from last week's vignette, Cobra Moon.
So her debut right out of the gate facing Bengala. I can already tell you I'm a fan of Cobra Moon. I'm going to be channeling my inner vampire. I'm a fan, brother. So, yeah, I think
love
she's
that.
Great.
Yeah, that's great.
She's great. I love her look. I love her mannerisms because her entrance, like, her movements had kind of like a sultry vibe to them, and she's got this tongue work again, like a cobra, like that snake-like thing going there. So she's definitely putting her back into the gimmick as far as like the body language and the animation goes. You know what I mean? And then you go to the matchup, and I really liked what she did here. She did do some technical stuff, like some Hurricane Ranas. I think she did like a Hurricane Rana, like off the apron onto Bengala. But what really got me though was how the finish, because what I love about Lucha Underground, guys, and they've established this precedent as far back as season 1. It's not anything new. Just because you're debuting, that doesn't equate to you're going to win. I mean, that's such a WWE kind of model. And of course, Lucha Underground looks at anything WWE or anything that's not them for that matter, and it's like, we could do it better. So, you know, a lot of the time you do see guys lose, so it's up in the air. Is Cobra Moon going to win? Is she going to lose? How are they going to handle it? And there's this whole exchange where she gets this dragon sleeper. I think that Bengala got it to the ropes, but no, he sunk down to the ground. Cobra Moon gets the body scissors, so it's almost like an actual cobra or like a snake when they do that contortion, when they do that like body wrap. It's kind of like how she was doing, and she just finally drained the life out of him, and he tapped out. So Cobra Moon getting the submission victory, which I think is perfect for the whole Cobra vibe, that she should win by submission. I thought this was a great debut, dude. I'm curious to know what you thought about it.
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to say straight up, you could definitely tell that she was, she wasn't like on the same level as far as in ring goes as like a Sexy Star or of an Evilise. But let me ask you this, John. How long do you think she's been wrestling?
I think from what we've been hearing, hasn't it been like 10 years or sometime? Like, I feel like she had many years in the business. Or
Cobra
now.
Moon? We're talking about Cobra Moon now.
Right. Yeah. That would be my guess. It's like maybe like a decade, maybe a little less, maybe like 8 years.
She debuted on October, I want to say 22nd? October 22nd, 2014.
Wow. So not that long in the business at all.
She has been wrestling for about a year and 4 months. And I'm not going to go as far as to say that, oh my God, you'd never be able to know from the way she is in the ring, because she's not exceptional in the ring, but she is. The thing that she gets that a lot of people that are that new to the business don't necessarily get is character work, and she pulls it off.
Yes, and dude, see, my thing is, and maybe this is me going a bit far, but I think her having a grasp of character work for the time being
makes her perfect for Lucha Underground.
Makes her perfect for Lucha Underground for one, and two, any gaps in her in-ring work I think will be concealed because they're compensated by the character work. So that's where I think she really lucks out. I think she's going to be a nice fit, especially because, Sexy Star's a Technico. Evilise, with just how she's gutted through everything and the heart that she's shown, she's a Technico. Despite maybe the fact that she gives off more of a Rudo vibe, baddest bitch in the building and all that. So Cobra Moon, she can take that female Rudo spot. I mean, I'm sure Marty the Moth's sister, is going to have something to say about that. But we need kind of a Rudo Luchadora space, and I think Cobra Moon and Marty's sister, they will be amazing occupants for that space. So I'm excited.
Yeah. It's amazing to me, though, that you couldn't tell that she was green, because, like, I kind of noticed there were a few points in the match where I was like, okay, maybe she is a little bit green, but just kind of from a very objective kind of perspective, nobody would ever guess that she's only been in the business for just over a year.
I mean, yeah, I thought she had like over a decade, so I mean, clearly I didn't.
Well, and from what I understand too, like she's done a lot in her year and a couple months in the business. Like she's been to Japan already, dude. Like she's been everywhere. She's cramming a lot into a very small amount of time. So it's great to see Lucha Underground sort of, honestly, kind of being, they've always been progressive, so I don't want to use that word, but almost being kind of precognitive and kind of seeing this girl as like, this chick could be like a big deal. She's done a lot in very little time. She's already this good. Imagine where she'll be 2 or 3 more years from now, and how much of a sensation she can be by then.
I can tell you, contingent on the kind of backstory interaction she's going to have in the temple, she may become a favorite of mine. I dug everything about this. I had a thoroughly good time. I really have no complaints about it. And again, I thought it was so smart to have her win by submission. So smart.
I love that too. And, I will say, I'm not necessarily sure if I agree with the type of submission she used, because to me, like, I mean, this might be just me being typical Ashton, overthinking everything, but when I think Snake who uses an inverted or a dragon sleeper to win, I think more like Anaconda Constrictor kind of Snake, not Python, not Cobra, not like Venomous gonna strike and kill.
I even made a similar point earlier because I used the word constrict and I brought up that imagery. So I really didn't. Yeah,
I would almost prefer some kind of a strike as a way for her to win, but I guess because of the size difference, because she is female and she is smaller than most of the people she's going to be going against, maybe a strike wouldn't be the best way to go. I'm not sure. I will say though, I love that. I don't know if this was intentional, and it probably wasn't, because it probably actually happened before the event that I'm talking about, but I love that this is kind of similar to the Bailey thing over Nia Jax.
Right. Yeah. And see, dude, here's why I love that she won with this kind of submission. Especially, I mean, Bengala's no Titan by any means, but just the idea that she took him down, like, to me, that gives her immediate credibility. Because the vignette in the week that, preceded this matchup, you see her, like, taking these guys out, and she says, I'm seductive, I'm evil, I'm this, I'm that. So she's really building herself up, and she goes in her first night, and she makes a guy tap out, almost pass out. Like, that to me is like when you're talking a big game in prison, the biggest dog in the yard challenges you to a fight and you hold your own and you beat his ass. Like, that's to me what Cobra Moon did here. I love it. Like I said, in channeling Manor Vampiro, I'm a fan, man. It was great.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, so up next, we had Fenix in Catrina's office telling her that he wanted King Cuerno and that he was after Mill and her as well. And she just kind of tells him that even with 1,000 lives, they'll run out eventually. And I don't know if she told him at this point or if it was in the Cuerno segment that happened later that we would find out. But we did end up getting a match tonight involving Fenix and Cuerno, so we'll talk about that then. But then after that, we got an amazing cinematic, a flashback to a millennia ago with some Aztec, I don't even know what to call them, like some ancient Aztec tribesmen almost, and they're around this fire, and it's this little girl, and I'm assuming one of her parents, or maybe like the tribe master or whatever, and they're talking about needing to unite the 7 tribes, and next thing you know, freaking Aero Star shows up. So not only is this dude a space traveler, he's also a Time Lord. So or alternatively, he's just immortal. That's the other option.
All of those equate to one thing: badass. I envy Aero Star's power already. Most interesting thing to come out of this to me, Ashton, they say that the 7 tribes are at war, a millennia ago. They need to be united for what's coming. And then I believe it's Aero Star that said the gods will appear in the form of men. And I found that very intriguing. And what I never got to ask you in live reactions, which, by the way, guys, they are up. You can go check them out on the channel. And a discussion I wanted to have with you, and I guess it was more appropriate here. Do you think any of the gods are already at the temple in human form? Do you think gods are already walking among us, or do you think that is yet to come yet?
Because that's have to wonder if Aero Star is one, knowing that he's basically immortal now.
Like, I was thinking, like, is Mil Muertes a god? But then I think about his backstory of Pascual Mendoza and emerging from the rubble.
Maybe he's a demigod. Maybe that's how he survived the earthquake.
Maybe. And then I think, is Matanza potentially? Is Cueto potentially? Like,
Cueto might be. Cueto very well might be. Because we found out by the end of this episode, his reputation is a little bit bigger than we even thought.
Yeah, he apparently has been a big pain in the ass to Mexico, to say the least. But that'll be another big discussion at the end of the video. But keeping it on now, because, dude, my mind was racing when they said the gods are going to appear in the form of men. Because I'm thinking, okay, cycle through the temple database. Who the hell could be a god? And yeah, man, I can't even figure it. And you know what? Knowing Lucha Underground, they're probably thinking, you fools, you're searching the temple and they haven't even arrived yet. And I'm just thinking, oh my god. I don't know, man.
Man, this is so good.
Dude, that segment, I gotta tell you, as far as like cinematic segments and story, this was the story, like, plot point that gripped me the most. I know the ending was fantastic, right? I'm not trying to undersell it. But this, the whole, like, what's coming and uniting the tribes, then you made a great point. Could Gift of the Gods have a role in this in uniting the tribes?
Yeah, that's my thing, too, because they talked about we need to unite the 7 tribes. Well, in a metaphorical sense, Cueto did exactly that at the end of last season when he put all 7 Aztec medallions in one belt and had somebody unite them by winning the belt.
Exactly. So I wonder if, and this is the thing too, because again, it's Lucha Underground, so nothing is ever really as it seems. Could whoever holds the Gift of the Gods at the end be the one that's going to really lead the troops against whatever this opposition is? It's like just so many freaking questions, and of course that's how I like it, and that's how Lucha Underground rolls. But I mean, the little girl, who I'm guessing is the daughter of the tribesman that was speaking, she says, as much as I hope with all of my heart that this can happen, I just don't see the tribes uniting. So she's pessimistic. She thinks that whatever is coming their way is going to have their way, with them, because the tribes aren't going to be able to unite and form that kind of front against whatever the hell is coming. And honestly, if that isn't even a reference to Matanza or whatever, what the hell could be more intimidating than Matanza if that's not even what they're alluding to? I don't know, dude. Dark times are ahead indeed.
It's a much darker place.
I know, man. I know. I tremble with excitement just thinking about it because they have built Matanza up, and we still haven't even seen him full form. And now you could potentially, and I do want to stress potentially, be introducing another threat that's a millennia in the making.
And that's the amazing thing too, is that Lucha Underground, I didn't think they would, but they are constantly upping the ante as far as what the obstacle is. Because last season, I would say that the obstacles were just kind of the Rudos in general. You have Pentagon breaking arms, Hernandez, Mill, and of course Cueto himself served as an obstacle. This year, this whole faction of death serves as the big obstacle, but then you also have Matanza waiting in the wings as an even bigger obstacle potentially. And now we're finding out about an obstacle that we haven't even seen yet that we know of, that it's like the frickin' X-Men Apocalypse and his 4 horsemen or something are coming. And we're going to get the Aztec gods storming the temple. What can that feels like a season 3 story to me.
It does. I think whatever is brewing, don't expect answers this season, people, because I think that's going to feed right into season 3. And in my mind, Ashton, as it should, because I think season 2 has already got so much going on right now, with everybody gunning for Mil Muertes, the bombshell we got at the end of tonight's episode, which again we will get to, that it's not that I don't trust Lucha Underground to do this juggling act, because man, did they make me eat so much crow the first season, I'm not going to do it again. But I do think it's smart to pace yourself and to make each season worthwhile. Don't stack all your cards on one season. So I do think whatever is coming, they're just going to tease it out just like they did Matanza, who they're still teasing out. It's like Lucha Underground's like, give it all to us. There is nothing we can't handle. And again, as I say so many times, I love that confidence. This was a great cinematic segment.
Yeah, absolutely. So now we move on and we can talk about, I believe what was next was the locker room scene where Catrina told about King Cuerno about how he didn't finish off Fenix when he had the chance, but that tonight he would have another chance and that it would be the last luchador standing. It's a match that he is undefeated in, and that the title would not be on the line. So really just completely, literally nothing for him to lose, nothing really for Fenix to gain. It just the ultimate kill or be killed situation.
Yeah, nothing for
Cuerno. And by the way, then she teleports again.
Yeah, nothing for Cuerno to lose, nothing for Fenix to gain, and yet what does that formula sum up to? Catrina always wins. Right. So, there you go. I thought this was great. Got its point across. We can move on.
All right. Then we got our second match of the night, Jack Evans versus Drago. And this was a very fun match. Lots of back and forth. Jack Evans picks up the victory, though, when Drago was trying. He hit the big blockbuster DDT, and then he was trying to go for the Dragon's Tail pinning combination, and Evans reversed it into his backslide, and then he bridged it and used the ropes for leverage to get the win.
Yes, Jack the Dragon Slayer Evans, baby. Yes. Oh my god, I love it so much. Dude, that's what was so funny about this match. It was a solid back and forth match, by the way, guys. I had fun with it. Always great to see Jack Evans showing how many variations of kicks he knows how to do. And Drago's always solid. I still freaking love the ring attire. I miss seeing that crazy mask and the creepy tongue and everything. I just missed everything about the temple, and I'm just so glad to be getting this week to week now. But yeah, the idea that Drago didn't immediately go for the pin after the blockbuster, I'm like, no way.
He did, though. He did go for the pin. He was trying to do the Dragon Tail pinning combination.
Well, yeah, I mean, what I'm saying, and when I say go for the pin, I mean, I'm just saying, hook in the leg, whatever. Right. He tried to do that unique pin, yeah. And I still feel like that wasn't even immediate, so Jack Evans had a little bit of time to get his wits about him, and he got the freaking win.
I mean, for what it's worth, I feel like the reason that he didn't go for the pin right away is because Jack Evans was smart and rolled onto his stomach.
That's right, he did, so I think Drago tried to find a way around that, and yet Jack Evans, man, getting the win. And it's funny because I know you and I were having a discussion in live reactions. We didn't really know which way it was going to go, but I think they had a great call in having Jack Evans go over here. I think his season 2 is going to be much kinder to him than his first season was. My only nitpick, but again, it wasn't even a nitpick in like a serious kind of heat in the night forum kind of way. I really wish Jack Evans would have spit some fire in Mil Muertes' direction, but I'll take him calling himself the Dragon Slayer and announcing his own victory post-match because that was gold. That was so good.
It was. I love, too, that as soon as he gets that pinfall, he doesn't even give Melissa Santos a chance to announce him as the winner. He grabs the mic from her and says, "Watch a real professional do it." And he announces himself, "Your winner, Jack," no, that's not enough. "Jack the Dragon Slayer Evans." It's so good.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if Jack Evans was to take over every job in Lucha Underground, would any of us really protest? I wouldn't. I'd be cool with that. So, if Jack Evans wants to do everybody's job, I ain't gonna stop him. So that was great. Jack Evans gets a win on the board. Very happy to see it. Also great to see Drago. Just a fun match all around.
Absolutely. So now we can move on and talk about our another. I almost was going to try and give it a number, but I don't know if it's our second, third, fourth, whatever. But another vignette here, a video package reintroducing Tejano and him just destroying a couple of masked luchadors at a bar with his bullwhip. And we find out that he is going to be returning next week. So I don't know, man. We need to do this discussion again. We did it last week for Cobra Moon. Who do you think Tejano's first opponent is going to be? You know what?
See, I can't say any of those guys for a certain reason, which we'll get to at the end, because I would have said one of the people that he called out. You know what? I'm going to say Superfly next week. I think this will be...
You really want to see Superfly? Didn't you suggest Superfly for Cobra Moon this week?
I thought you suggested Superfly for Cobra Moon, didn't you? Or was that me?
I'm pretty sure it was you.
Well, regardless, I'm going to say him again.
I think I actually suggested Jack Evans for Cobra Moon.
You know, I think you're right about that. Either way, Superfly's got a job eventually. He can't outrun the temple forever, so I'm going to say next week.
And plus, I mean, we got both Cobra Moon and Jack Evans this week, so I got at least what I wanted, I got.
Yeah, really.
Even if they weren't facing each other, I still got Jack Evans this week, which was cool.
Yeah. So, I'm going to say Superfly. I'm just going to keep saying Superfly for every new person that comes in because he's the ultimate jobber, so...
What about like Vinny Massaro and Famous B and, those guys?
Well, maybe they're still busy fully healing those broken arms. I don't know. Because I know they came back, but those arms were still heavily taped up, and I don't really know what their status is, so we'll see.
Mariachi Loco? Oh, let it be Mariachi Loco.
That'd be so good.
That's who I want it to be. I'm saying right now, I want it to be Mariachi Loco. Okay, so no, you go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I hope for P.W. Gregory's sake that it is Mariachi Loco. Maybe he'd actually get the upset win and he'd be able to play the music afterwards. So, I'm hoping for him.
Dude, he hates Mascarita Sagrada so much.
I'm with you, my friend. I'm with you. Solidarity.
No, you hated him too.
Well, I'm the douche nozzle, so of course I'm going to hate the Technico that has a severe disadvantage compared to everybody else. Freaking half pint.
Okay, so up next we had a bathroom scene with Prince Puma. He got a visit from Catrina, get your mind out of the gutter, who gave, he kind of gave him a speech about how, she kind of gave him a speech about how Conan failed. And we really did got some closure. Conan is dead.
Which is amazing.
It is. I love, too, that now we know, like, for sure, that's it. If somebody gets put in a casket and the lid gets shut, they are dead. Because the same thing happened to Mil, and he had to be revived by Catrina, and then it happened to Conan, and he is kayfabe legit dead.
Yeah, he's done. And I just love how Catrina just threw it in Puma's face. He was like, you want to know the last words that he said before he was thrown into that casket? Forgive me. And, like, she just plays up, like, oh, do you think he was asking God for forgiveness for the kind of life that he led? Or do you think he was asking forgiveness from you for failing you as a mentor? And, like, Puma's face. And see, this is, again, we talked about this a lot in the first season. I love
facial expressions.
The body language, yeah, the facial expressions, the body language, and it is really, like, it was great in the first season. It has been stupendous this season because I can see the pain radiating from Puma's face.
And it's not just pain either. It's a combination of pain and rage.
Yeah, rage agony, anguish, infuriation, just everything. Like, I am actually, and I rarely say this, I think I've only said this about Pentagon as well, because he's just a crazy bastard, but I'm actually worried for Mil Muertes when Puma gets to be unleashed, because I think he's just gonna let everybody have it. I'm worried that they are just boiling Puma over. He is gonna kill some people, dude.
And the crazy thing is, too, like, that just reminds me that, like, we have so many contenders now. We might be getting Aztec Warfare for the title. That might be Mil's first title defense since Evil East. Maybe by then he'll have his arm healed.
What I have to wonder about Puma, though, because he knows what Mil Muertes is, and yet he's dealing with a lot internally. Are they going to turn that into a narrative in itself, where maybe Puma will have some dark choices ahead? Maybe he'll have the opportunity to.
Well, we know he's facing Pentagon next week.
Oh my God! I'm already looking past NXT tonight, Raw next week. I'm just looking straight to that matchup, dude. Straight to that freaking matchup.
That's the matchup that actually got announced here during the segment with Catrina.
Yeah, dude, that match is going to be a bummer. Even if it's inconclusive, because I think that's going to be the start of a very beautiful feud for the second season.
That's going to be like a 10-episode long feud.
Yeah. Hey, no complaints from me. They could take the rest of the season for all I care.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, Phoenix Mill was a 30-episode feud, and it's still not over.
Yeah, really. They still want each other's blood.
Yeah, but, that feud started on episode 8.
Right. Wow.
And here we are 32 episodes later, 33 hours later, and they still hate each other's guts.
I'm going to say right now, knowing Lucha Underground's storytelling style and just how much they emphasize story, which I freaking love them for, I do think Puma's going to have to make some compromises if he hopes to beat Mil Muertes. And I think we're going to see that. I think we're going to see a lot of his internal struggle this season. But unlike a Sami Zayn, who I'll use as a parallel, I don't think Puma's going to come out clean. I'm not saying he's going to go Rudo. I want to qualify my words here so people don't put words in my mouth. I do think, though, he's going to have to, kind of walk a bit on the other side to get certain things done. I think we're going to see a different Prince Puma this season. I'm excited.
I really do think he's going to stay with his morals. I think he's going to maintain his integrity. I'm telling you, man.
We'll see, man. We'll see. And hell, I mean, between Mil Muertes and Pentagon Jr., Ashton, you have to admit, Puma's staring down a lot of darkness this season, so we'll see.
He was last season, too. Look how many people he had to go through. I mean, he had to go through Cage and Mil. Well, obviously he didn't end up going through Mil, but you get the idea. And Hernandez, he had a lot of adversity last season. The difference is this season he doesn't have Conan in his ear.
And that's just it. I was just getting ready to say.
But Conan was never his moral compass. Conan was only ever his, his mentor, his coach.
But here's the thing. I think he felt very strongly about Conan and thought very highly of him as that coach. Because if you remember the story, Conan found him in the barrio fighting for his life. So Puma, in a way, probably feels like he owes his life to Conan. That's probably what's tearing him up inside, that he's gone. So I think there is a huge emotional toll being taken right now on Prince Puma that we're really going to see on display through his second season. We've already started to see it a little bit, but I think it's only going to escalate until it hits some kind of crescendo, and I can't wait to see what it is. So it's going to be good.
Yeah. So now we get to our main event. We have King Cuerno versus Fenix. Last luchador standing. No title on the line, though. This is just a straight up beat your opponent down until they can't stand up for 10 seconds match. And it was physical, to say the very least.
Oh, a great back and forth affair between these guys. I mean, what I love about Cuerno is, whenever he would get Fenix down and Fenix would even start to stir, Cuerno was right back on him. Like, I remember one point they were on the outside and Fenix started to get up a little bit after I think Cuerno did a hard Irish whip into the, barricade, where the fans were, and Fenix starts to stir, and then Cuerno gets, a hard clothesline, on the outside. So he was really on top of Fenix, or at least tried to be. Fenix's comeback, I think, was great with the balancing on the ropes and the variations of corkscrew plunges, that he could do, off the ropes. His form is breathtaking. I see a lot of high flyers, you think about gorgeous high flying moves, what immediately comes to mind to me, Neville's Red Arrow, or in the Lucha Underground context, sure, Puma's 630. But Fenix, even the more rudimentary stuff, he just looks absolutely gorgeous. So yeah, and then, towards the end, we get Cuerno. He grabs a ladder, uses it almost like a javelin, just drives into the face of Fenix. And then when he's down, he props the ladder up in the corner. He gets the table. He's setting up the table. It looks like he's going to German Fenix through it, but Fenix had other ideas, didn't he, Ashton?
Fenix fights out of the German, and then these guys start climbing the ladder. Fenix is climbing up the ladder first, and Cuerno is following behind. And Fenix gets a few elbows, a few kicks, and then he kicks the ladder while Cuerno is at the top of it, because Fenix gets to the point where he's able to sit on the top of Catrina's office, and he kicks the ladder with Cuerno on it. Cuerno ends up going through the table, and that is how we end this match, with Fenix standing tall. Cuerno could not get up, and, I mean, you could have counted to 100, and he wouldn't have gotten up.
That impact was sick. My body actually tensed up when Cuerno first made contact, because I'm like, holy shit, what a fall. And this is the perfect finish because, A, the babyface had nothing to gain in this match, so you might as well give him the win. I mean, it's not like he was going to win Gift of the Gods anyway. B, this still keeps Cuerno in the conversation because he didn't lose Gift of the Gods. So honestly, I think he could afford the loss, and he's going to take it right on the chin because that's just how amazing Cuerno is. But 3, what I loved most about this wasn't the 6 spot, wasn't the physical back and forth. It wasn't even really anything to do necessarily with the atmosphere of the match. It was the post-match. I love how Mill reacted to Fenix's victory. Because if I'm not mistaken, if I saw it right, and this could be on me, I thought I saw him either get out of his throne or at the very least have a really wild, shocked expression on his face looking at Fenix. He registered something with Fenix's victory is my point. And that to me shows he knows that Fenix is capable of fighting back. He knows that Fenix isn't going to go quietly. And I think that makes Mill nervous because keep in mind, he's still nursing that arm for one. But I think tonight was the first night that Mill really recognized the threats that are posed against his title reign. And I love that. I love that he registered, not that fear, because I don't think Mil Muertes feels fear, but he's recognizing, he's aware of his situation. And I love that. I think that was a great touch.
Yeah. And then we get our post-credit scene.
Yes.
And this blew my mind. Because here's the thing, guys. Last season, we knew Cortez Castro as a thug, as a member of the crew, as, one of the guys that did Dario Cueto's dirty work for him, right? Now, we see this is almost like a sheriff's office almost, and we see Captain Vasquez, and it's a female, and she's it's like a police office, obviously, because she's the police captain, and she was talking to Cortez Castro, and I thought I was immediately put off because Castro had no even inkling of a Spanish accent, of a Hispanic accent, no accent whatsoever. Very much just sounded like he was born and raised in America, almost had a southern drawl even. And I was confused by that because I remember him last season having a little bit of a Hispanic vibe, or Spanish, what the hell am I talking about? Hispanic vibe to the way he talks. And for those of you that don't know, I'm really weird with how obsessed I am with language sometimes. So I notice these things. And so when he was talking, I was kind of confused by that. But then we find out he is an undercover policeman. And he's investigating Dario Cueto and potentially both of the Cuetos. And Captain Vasquez tells him, we're going to send in some help. And we get Joey Ryan. So not only did we get the bombshell that Cortez Castro is an undercover cop, but now we're adding Joey Ryan to the mix, and we already know that as far as the temple is concerned, these guys have to hate each other.
Yes. And
so it's good cop, bad cop, but the weird thing is, in the real, there are so many levels of kayfabe now because these guys are, in kayfabe, they're cops, but in the temple kayfabe, they're, it's a thug and a debuting face that we've never seen before. But, Cortez Castro is the good cop, and Joey Ryan is the bad cop, and, well, not really even the bad cop that I know of, but he just kind of came off as kind of sleazy, because, he reminds me of Porn Stash from Orange is the New Black, or the one dude that had the really thick mustache on Super Troopers, which is an amazing movie. I don't remember his name though, so I apologize. But this is amazing. John, take the ball, please, or I'm going to keep rambling.
I welcome your rambling because I feel like I do that all the time regardless. But if you really want my thoughts on this, I'll give them to you. First and foremost, can I just say before I lose this train of thought, I love that they introduced Joey Ryan into the fold in one of the biggest storylines Lucha Underground has going. Immediately makes him feel important by being a cop investigating Cuerno. That's no small time shit. To me, that sets him apart from the likes of Cobra Moon and PJ Black recently, who, yeah, they had kick-ass vignettes, but they just had debut matches. Joey Ryan's debut is actually more akin to Rey Mysterio. I mean, think about the names I'm throwing out here. He's a part of, like, a huge storyline going on in this temple, so I love that they give him that straight away. So you know he's important. You know when you see him in the temple, you've got this story now, so you're watching him with, like, an extra sense of keenness. You know, you're kind of leaning in your chair, you're wondering what's going to happen. Cortez Castro.
Can you imagine how the people that went to every single taping feel after seeing this?
I know, right?
Like, you went to all those tapings and you saw Joey Ryan in these matches, and now you have context. It's like, oh my god, this is so good.
It is. Cortez Castro being an undercover cop, I think, is brilliant.
Dude,
I think
it's brilliant, but what a swerve that is. How out of left field is that? And the crazy thing is, like, in hindsight, that that's an amazing way to retcon how just not credible at all the crew was in season 1, because they lost so many matches. Well, how do we know Cortez Castro wasn't throwing those matches?
Yeah. And, you know, even if he wasn't throwing them, his head certainly wouldn't be in those matches because now we know what he's really doing.
Yeah.
He's not there to compete. He's there to skulk out Cuerno and, you know, excavate any information that he can, you know, from the temple. I love it, dude.
And the great thing is, too, he kept his hands clean throughout all of season 1. He was not the one to put Big Rick's eye out.
Right.
That was Mr. Sisko, if you'll remember.
Right.
And, I mean, yeah, he and Mr. Sisko did hold Bale's head up to the cage, but again, they didn't kill him. Matanza did.
Right, and honestly, dude, I would absolve him of that because if you know,
he had to keep his cover, yeah.
Exactly, had to keep his cover. Like any undercover cop movie or TV show you've ever seen, you know, sometimes you have to toe the line so that you keep it, compromise so you can keep everything going. To me, and what I love about this, and I'm sorry I have to say it because you and I see it a lot, WWE, when you and I, thankfully that was long ago that it's almost become a distant memory for me, almost, would watch TNA and other promotions. I feel like a lot of time people do swerves simply for the sake of swerves, though. And then when you really mull it over, you're like, oh, man, too many plot holes. To me, this achieves the impact of it being a swerve, but it's completely logically consistent when you go through your Rolodex of the first season, and you're like, wait a minute, this works. I love that about Lucha Underground. They're not going to pop you unless it's logically consistent. They're not that cheap. They're not that desperate. They're confident in their story. And what a freaking layer to add.
Yeah.
Like, holy shit.
This isn't some, like, Vince Russo bullshit, like, swerve for the sake of a swerve kind of thing.
Exactly.
This feels like something that they had planned from the beginning.
Yes. Yes, and just laying that groundwork and getting it done. And you know what? I love that because you know what, too? Like, Vasquez talking to Castro, because Castro, to me, yeah, he's a good cop. He's giving hands. You know at least I felt like, maybe, Ashton, you could correct me on this because I know we were both freaking out. Maybe I just saw what I wanted to see. Castro seems scared to me about still going back to the temple and doing that. Like, he's like, are you pulling me out? And she's just like, no, you're in too deep. And it's almost like she didn't give a shit. Like, she wants to get Cuerno.
What? No, I didn't get that vibe. I got the vibe that he didn't want her to pull him out and that he was concerned that she was going to.
See, I think he's willing to do his job. Don't get me wrong. I feel like, though, he would have been relieved if she said, okay, you're done. Go home.
I didn't get that vibe at all. I got the vibe that he was like, he wants this. He has it on the tape, like at the tip of his tongue. He can feel this on his fingertips. He does not want her to take him out of this because he wants to be one of, if not the one, to fix this problem.
And you know what? That very well could be. I got the vibe personally that, and it's true, you know, Castro's seen some shit. Okay, so when you see that stuff, you're just kind of sitting there, and your superior is going over the case, and you're just thinking, okay, maybe we got enough to nail him. And then when she's like, we don't have enough to nail him to the wall, you're just like, God damn it, I gotta go back in again. But whatever it is, whether he wanted to go back or not, we know he is, and we know he's gonna be going with Joey Ryan in tow, and they're gonna have to pretend not to know each other. But I think another thing that this does, if you're into this whole cop narrative and Cueto being this big-time criminal, God knows how deep that goes, okay? I'm not even going to try and touch that with a 10-foot pole. I think in a roundabout way, in the story, I'm not even talking about, like, in terms of being a competitor, of being a participant in the temple, I think Castro just became one of the most sympathetic technicos that they have now. Because now...
And that's the horrible thing, too, because we're going to go the entire rest of this season with him having that rudo reaction from the crowd because they don't know.
Exactly, and yet...
But I do a complete... And the fact that he's going to be getting booed for the rest of the season when he does show up makes him even more sympathetic.
Exactly, because he's doing literally a thankless job.
Yeah.
And you and I are going to know it because that is the one privilege we have of being a television audience. Though, believe me, if we ever got to tour that glorious temple, I would take that in a heartbeat.
Oh, yes. Yeah. I was even talking in live reactions about how much I want just to experience the temple and get like a tour of where stuff goes down and that kind of stuff. That would be amazing.
But I love the vantage point that you and I get, brother, being, well, I mean, not a television viewer, but you get my point, watching at home, taking this stuff in, because now you and I are going to look at Cortez Castro and think, you poor son of a bitch, you're doing all this, and for what? I think it's great, dude. It left my jaw, slightly dropped, my mouth kind of agape, because Lucha Underground did it again. Even if you guys felt like maybe this episode was somewhat of a cool down from the previous 2 weeks, I mean, that finish had to be a gut punch in the best possible way to everybody, because once again, they give you a reason to come back next week. And I love that.
Dude, forget next week. There's so much going on right now. Even if they didn't create any new stories to keep people tuned in past next week, I would still want to continue watching because there's just so much that's dangling right now. I mean, you talk about Marty the Moth and his sister and Sexy Star and that whole thing. Puma and Mysterio and Azteca Jr. This whole thing with Cortez Castro and Joey Ryan and the Cuetos and Black Lotus, Pentagon and Puma. Dude, there is way too, not to mention, we haven't seen Team Havoc since episode 1.
Right.
There's so much happening. Plus all these contenders piling up for Mill.
Yes. I mean, dude, I'm going to level with you, right? Even with the Tribesman cinematic vignette tonight with Aero Star and the whole threat from a millennia ago and all that stuff, even that, for a viewer like me, would be enough to burrow into my brain that I would have to watch, forget next week, the rest of the season. That's what I love about Lucha Underground, is I think they offer such tantalizing stories, even in terms of what the threat is. Because we don't even know what the threat is. Can you even say with the utmost confidence that Matanza's the threat anymore? Because I can't. I thought he was, but I think there's got to be an even bigger threat than Matanza now, personally. And that should terrify anybody, because this man.
See, I don't know about that. I think you might be going a little bit too far there, because even if there is a greater threat on the grand scale of things, just looking at the temple right now, Matanza is definitely the biggest threat.
Well, I mean, he's away from the temple now, but they've got to come back eventually. And see, that's the thing. It's almost, and now this will be my final point, at least for me. I mean, Ashton, if you have anything else you want to say, I'll give you that after. Right. And then we can move on to our next segment. But that's what I love about not just the second season, but I think Lucha Underground's direction as a whole. All of these points are converging on the temple. Yes. Because Cueto and Matanza are going to be coming back, and these gods in the form of men. What if we see one? And now everybody that comes to that temple, I'm going to tell you, my paranoid ass, I'm going to be thinking, is that one of the gods? I'm serious, though. I'm going to be looking at him.
I'm laughing because I know you're serious.
Right, and I'm going to be looking like, is that a god? Is that are you? Is that guy with the grease stain on his shirt?
Cobra Moon? Is PJ Black? What do we not know?
Yeah, is that guy with the nacho cheese stain, in his beard and stuff? Is he a god? What's going to happen? I mean, and that's what I love. This temple.
Are the believers the gods?
Maybe there's a believer that's just going to stand up from the stands at one point, and everybody's going to be looking at him like, what the hell are you doing? And he's going to have this transformation sequence, and he's going to raise the temple to the ground. And here's the thing.
Dude, what if Catrina's a god?
Or God is, I guess. I mean, they did say, she's literally death. and maybe she can sense that the gods are coming. But here's the thing.
Oh, what if she is a goddess, though? What if, like, literally, because, like, she can freaking teleport and she has this power over death and stuff?
I don't know, man. I don't know. Maybe, God only knows. And I
think gods only know, yeah.
The gods only know, yeah. And I think anybody that's probably thinking, man, that's really outlandish. I mean, and to me, I know you even said, like, you may be taking it a bit too far. I'm sorry to disagree with you, brother. With all due respect, you can never go too far with Lucha Underground. Ever. I learned that, and I think you learned that, too. I think anything is possible. I'm not taking anything off the table.
And the beautiful thing about that, and what makes it so amazing, what sets it apart from everything else, the WWE likes to talk about, the WWE universe. We live in our own universe. You are a part of the real world.
Let me just put it to you this way. WWE's universe is nothing more than a pinprick of a continent, if that. This is a goddamn universe.
Yeah, and it literally feels like a different universe because you've got, like, masked luchadors showing up on motorcycles and in bars and trying to, stop bank heists and shit like that, like random crazy things like that don't happen in the real world, to really set it apart and be like, listen, guys, don't try and pretend that this is real, because it's not. Don't pretend that this is happening in the real world, because it's not. This is our universe. This is the fictional universe that we have created for the events of this television show to happen in.
And you know what else I think is appropriate about the terminology of universe is, I really think that its expanse is infinite. We traveled back in time a millennia tonight.
Yeah.
So how far does this shit go?
Dude, this is so much less WWE and so much more Marvel. People don't even realize it.
And yet, that is the biggest compliment you could give, regardless of what any old-timers would like to tell you about it. So, for me, I'm freaking good. I have nothing more to say about this. Is there anything else you want to say before I move on?
Yeah, I just want to point out, by the way, John, everybody that's listening, how big of a deal does Dario Cueto have to be that there is an ongoing investigation on him and his brother?
Yes! Oh my God, he may be even scummier than we realized.
Yeah, well, and you almost have to wonder, too, like, by the way, again, I think I've said by the way 5 times tonight. I love that Lucha Underground has really horrid, against the law level shit go on in their temple, but it's not without consequences, because Cueto and Matanza killed a guy and they're being investigated. So obviously, no, the investigation probably didn't start because of that. It was obviously going on before that because Castro is undercover. But still, I mean, he brought up the fact that they killed Bale. And, you could kind of saw Vasquez was like, oh, okay. And she kind of took that into account. So it's like they're going to add that to their list of charges against the Cuetos.
Yes, I love, and I can't wait for our comic book discussion too of issue 2, which will be tomorrow, guys. But
that's John's decision, by the way, guys. I said Thursday or Friday. He's making it happen.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. I'm not going to leave you hanging because I read that issue and I don't want to give anything away. But between that issue, this television product, just as a whole, not even this episode isolated, I love that Lucha Underground is so willing to be, like, in your face with the violence and just the stakes and everything. And like you said, though, Ashton, they do have that logical connection. And it's funny saying, like, logical when we have this big discussion, like, what's Lucha Underground? What can they get away with? What can they get away with? Because the charges are piling up for Cueto. You know that this violence isn't mindless. It isn't directionless. It does have a comeuppance to it.
And it's
just a matter of when it's going to be delivered.
Building, too. This is all just more universe building because, like, this is now a universe where you've got, like, these mass luchadors in all faculties of life, but it's not so incredibly separate from our world that people's actions go unchecked. There are still consequences for actions.
Exactly. I love it, dude. I mean, this show just makes me so happy. I couldn't even begin. I'm already dreading the fact that we've got to wait just a whole nother week for what they're going to give us, because outside of Pentagon and Puma, what other storyline progression are we going to get next week? And that's the crazy thing. I think you could have said this about the first season. So forgive me for potentially being late to the party, but I think Lucha Underground's gotten to the point where the story really is what you anticipate anymore and not the matches. How crazy is that? Because, like, after what we got tonight, damn, what else are they going to levy us with? Like, I don't even know, man.
And, you know, I promised myself I wouldn't even touch on this, but I just want to say, as far as the whole Jim Cornette situation goes, he seems to have a problem with the big draw of the show being the writing instead of being the performers. But when you think about it, the writers last a hell of a lot longer than the performers do.
Yeah.
Because,
Yeah.
I mean, most wrestlers have a 5 or 6 year prime, and if you're lucky, you'll get a 15 to 20 year career. Writers, I mean, you know, they're young, and they could probably write for 40 or 50 years if they wanted to.
Right. And you know what? That's an excellent point, Ash, especially given the discussions that you and I have already had today, you know, on Daniel Bryan and just on the health situation of the WWE.
Yeah.
It's smart that Lucha Underground does say, well, you know what? We understand that performers, you know, they're not cattle that you can run into the ground. They're human beings. They're finite in their capabilities. You know, you don't really get them at their best for very long. So let's really emphasize the story so that, you know, they can act as well. And, you know, that's not nearly as demanding as like the in-ring product. And we can tell a compelling narrative. I mean, everything this promotion does, again, even when it has more of like an average night or an average first half or whatever you want to call it, it's still so much better than everything else going, and boy, do they consistently finish strong. Consistently. Yeah. Ridiculous, dude.
And that's another thing, too, is that, like, when you think about the scope of television shows, some of the best TV shows ever were written phenomenally well, despite having relatively no names in the cast. And then, obviously, the people that were no names at first became stars through the writing. Lost, John. Lost.
Yeah, yeah. And I gotta tell you, man, I get such vibes of that. I mean, the Mortal Kombat vibes still continue with Lucha Underground. I just want to know how I can switch my blood with this show, you know, so I don't have to do without it. But science, unfortunately, isn't that advanced. So
well, I mean, you know what? The science might not be that advanced, but maybe science is getting closer to time travel so that we can just skip ahead, 6 days and 23 hours.
Dude, I would abuse the shit out of that. I would pretty much lose the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And then I'd be like, well, worth it. You know, I would really be apologetic. So,
well, I mean, if we have time travel, we can just go into the future and watch every episode and then come back.
That is, I don't know, though. That's really polluting the time stream. But regardless.
Guys, we have spoilers for the rest of the history of Lucha Underground.
Fuck you, Wikipedia! Fuck you! So,
Wikipedia really is the worst, though. Like,
it really, whoever posts those spoilers, you deserve to be shot. So now,
didn't you sign an NDA? Seriously?
Yeah. Really. With that said, let's move on to our next segment: high spots and low shots. And you know what? The low shot this week, you know who it is? It's me. It's fucking me. Because I have to wait a week for this shit to continue. So, but no, in all seriousness, I'm going to say that my low shot actually is going to be King Cuerno. Yeah. Because even though he keeps Give to the Gods, he lost this match. And perhaps in the grander scheme of things,
he failed.
That was perfect interjection, but what I was going to say, with less seriousness and aggression, is that he's probably lost favor with Catrina, which puts him in very dangerous waters.
And
so
why did he lose favor with Catrina, John? Because he failed!
Who's your low shot, brother?
Us after that.
Yeah, really.
No, you know what? I'm gonna say my low shot is the Cuetos.
Yeah, okay.
Because they've been doing all this stuff, and Dario has this whole thing, like he's got this whole, empire that he's built, and he's going to eventually want to return to it, and Matanza's been doing all this murdering, and everyone just kind of thinks they're going to get away with it. They're under investigation, though, and I don't know if Captain Vasquez is as sort of relentless as she needs to be in order to catch these guys, but it would not surprise me if she was.
It wouldn't surprise me either, man.
Nothing would surprise me in this world right now. Well, you know what? I have to say, I lie, because Cortez Castro being an undercover cop surprised the hell out of me.
Yeah, exactly. My high spot, rolling right along, Joey Ryan, because...
Oh, I thought for sure you'd go with Cobra Moon.
No, yeah, I love her to death, and I already feel like she's going to be a part of my Lucha Underground Fave 5 in no time at all, but I have to give it to Joey Ryan because it's one thing to debut, it's another thing to debut in the thick of the biggest storyline that Lucha Underground has going, and that's everything with Dario Cueto and this godforsaken temple. So to give Joey Ryan that spot is probably the biggest vote of confidence that man, and by association his penis, has ever gotten. So, big ups to Joey Ryan, and I know his penis is on the case, and he'll do great things, and he'll apprehend the bad guys, so I'm excited for him.
Wow, John.
Who's your high spot?
Oh, there are so many jokes I could make right now. I think my high spot's going to be Tejano, though, because for the first time in his Lucha Underground career, I actually care what he's going to do next.
Yeah, really. Especially because, and dude, let's bring it back because we did talk about the vignette earlier, but I was kind of constrained because we hadn't talked about this segment. Who is he going to gun for now, and how's he going to go about his business knowing what we know? Because if he guns for Cortez Castro, we're going to be divided about that because we'll understand Tejano's gripe, but we know what Cortez is really doing there. I love the emotional conflicts and the layers of those conflicts that Lucha Underground creates. God, I could kiss this show in the mouth. Anything else you want to say about your high spot or just anything with Lucha Underground in general?
I thought that they did a really good job with Tejano's vignette tonight. That's the thing, too, is that, like, I feel like now that Alberto El Patron is out of the picture, I feel like that really opens up Tejano's options because he spent most of season one, or most of what he was a part of season one doing, was feuding with Alberto El Patron.
Right.
So now that Patron's out of the picture, and obviously he's not going to be feuding with Daivari anymore, and he was supposed to have an Ultima Lucha feud with Chavo Guerrero, but it ended up being Blue Demon Jr. because Chavo got hurt. It feels like there was a lot going wrong for Tejano in season one, and I feel like they're going to be able to get it back on track this season.
Right.
So
yeah, I'm excited for
Tejano.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I like how you reasoned that out.
Although I will say, there is a little bit of a logical fallacy going on here because he says that he's super proud of being Mexican, and yet Texas is almost in his name.
Yeah, that is true.
Why are you not Mexicano instead of Tejano?
Oh, man. All right, well, with that said, guys, this has been Lucha Underground. This has been TWitWoW, the best wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans, on the web today. I'm John. That's my cohort and commentary and Ashton. Guys, be sure to comment and subscribe on YouTube. Ashton, what question do you have for our subscribers this week?
Who's Tejano's opponent going to be next week?
There you go. Short, sweet, and to the point. Get that conversation started down in the comment section. Be sure to start the conversation and take it over to Tweet Off, an amazing pro wrestling group on Facebook. So many diehard Lucha Underground fans. If you're not right at home there, I don't know where you would be, but perhaps you would feel more at home in our TWitWoW subreddit that Ashton created. There you will find all of our TWitWoW content, and you, the viewer, will be endowed with the power to create threads on all things pro wrestling. And with that said, guys, we will see you again for our NXT review, where it's 2 women, 1 match, 1 NXT Women's Championship. It is Carmella versus Bayley. Best friends collide. Nothing but gold in between them. Who will emerge victorious? You can find your best coverage here. Until then, tune in and peace out.